Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here speaking on behalf of PayPal. I've only got about 10 minutes, so I will make my remarks brief. I think this will do me. I think we can say we live in interesting times in the European payments environment today. It's a pleasure to be here representing what could be considered a new innovator in the space of payments, and as well as a partner. I think, actually, I'll do a show of hands. Who's heard of PayPal? So I can speed through this. Yeah. How many of you have actually used PayPal? All right. We've got a majority, I think. Nice to see. So I won't spend a lot of time on this particular slide, but as users, PayPal is users of the various European payment systems like MasterCard, Visa, Carte Bancaire, and the various ACH or Gyro systems. We have a unique perspective on the payments landscape in Europe today. In particular, we welcome the delivery of a truly single European payments area in which all cards and ACH and Gyro bank payments can be delivered in the same formats and under the same harmonized rules and regulations, from Reykjavik to Rome, as the existing disparity has proven a real challenge as we deliver payments on behalf of millions of consumers and retailers in every EU state, although there is still work to do on local rules and interpretations for such payments. Therefore, as a user of the payment system, we truly welcome these developments, which mean that PayPal, on behalf of its customers, can start to achieve real economies of scale and help deliver to the vision of a single retail market in payments in the EU. I'm really proud to be part of that effort, as well as you should all as well. So, speeding right along, I'm going to make a few comments and a few insights as a key user of payments in Europe around 4 areas. Specifically, the SEPA migration. We are one of the largest direct debit collectors in Europe. I think in Germany, we are the 4th largest user of direct debits. So as we start ramping up our direct debit SEPA compliant formats as of actually next week, you will start seeing some significant movement in the SEPA compliance as well. But on the particular point around SEPA formats, I think we very much so support the harmonization of formats. It allows us then to do business in multiple markets. To date, we've only been able to offer bank transfers in a handful of markets that are large enough. As SEPA rolls out and we implement SEPA formats as of next week, we will be able to start offering bank transfers in a number of new markets that historically have not been able to use their bank account to fund their PayPal wallet, and we're very excited about that. We support the harmonization of underlying rules and business models through the introduction of the EU-wide regulation of multilateral interchange fees for the card networks like MasterCard, Visa, and the national debit card systems, including proposals to create greater transparency and competition for our acceptance of such payment cards. This is likely to be introduced, our understanding is, sometime in 2015, assuming everything goes to plan. The revision of the Payment Services Directive, or PSD2, which also is moving through the necessary EU approval processes, and which would likely be introduced sometime in 2016, will further build on the EU MIF regulation and address some of the governance, security, and alternative provider exemption issues identified with the role of PSD1. Finally, in the coming weeks, the European Central Bank has certainly been keeping at least ourselves busy as we provide our planned compliance plans to our regulator, in our case in Luxembourg, as well as providing input to the mobile security standards as well by the end of this month. So both of those, one will implement in February 2015, the internet, and then the mobile we expect sometime in 2017 to implement as well. And an important concept around that will be the concept of the home state regulatory principle as well, to ensure that we don't end up with 28 different interpretations of security standards. We're looking for one set of standards so we can do business across all markets. So, last slide, pretty much. A few words on SEPA specifically. We would like clarity around the electronic mandates. Right now, there is a very different set of rules around the mandates for the acceptance of direct debits. And we would very much so welcome in the EPC's rewrite of their rulebook a very clear set of guidelines around the e-mandates, and specifically to permit existing providers to use existing capabilities, understanding that they then take liability as well should they accept e-mandates, whereas today there are discussions around wet versus dry or electronic signatures. So we would look for clarity around that as there's a rewrite scheduled over the next couple of months for input, and then the separate rule books to be rewritten by 2015. And then given the many national rules around authentication, we would look for a common practice as well over time that doesn't exist today. Therefore, we would ask that current electronic mandates be permitted. On the EU MIF regulation, we believe there is a clear issue of competition concerns rather than those of a commercial nature. And of course, having to regulate the business means, by definition, the failure of the cards payments market to sufficiently self-regulate and deliver sufficient choice and competition to end users like PayPal, such that the Commission has had to step in and force change. From a PayPal point of view, a user of such payments, we would welcome certainty as well as a similar business model across the EU, again recognizing, however, that any need to regulate is usually suboptimal, but we do hope that this will then allow a more open and competitive payments landscape and focus all of us less on a fallback fees and more on value-add services to our end customers who are ready and willing to pay for value. Turning to the revised Payment Services Directive, we welcome the extension of the directive to all players in the European payment space to ensure a level playing field. While the PSD talks about security standards, it will be important that the directive and the ECB recommendations for security are closely aligned. And finally, we would welcome the restructuring of the various banking community work streams and decision-making bodies to ensure a balance is struck in the European Payments Council, which is today dominated by banks with other service providers and end users. In achieving a balanced approach in the EPC, this will ensure a more balanced approach within the European Retail Payments Board, as current proposals would make the EPC the tipping point between 3 PSPs and e-money institutions and 3 bank associations, always resulting in a majority bank representation in any decisions in the ERPB, which is not, I believe, the desired outcome. Finally, we have been kept very busy of late, as I mentioned, by our colleagues at the European Central Bank, as the February 1, 2015 deadline approaches, and all payment service providers, like PayPal, will need to comply or explain current internet security capabilities and how these meet the recommendations. Of concern, especially from PayPal, as one of the leading e-commerce payment providers in Europe, we have concern around the proposal around separating the buying and the paying experience, which goes against the general direction of the industry towards integrated payments and a seamless shopping experience, especially as mobile payments, almost by definition, demand such consumer ease of use, and so would suggest that this positioning be reconsidered to allow what we call light boxes for authentication. Also, there should be a clear ability for providers to decide, based upon their own risk decisions, that strong authentication can be replaced with sufficient authentication, and so only require, say, 3D secure authentication at certain higher risk points, rather than requiring it 100% of the time and creating friction for the consumer and for the retailer. Therefore, we should assume that failing any sort of consistent industry standard, in particular to authenticate bank payments as well, which the security standards are silent on, we would look for clarity around what the intention is to authenticate bank payments. It's quite clear in terms of cards. There is an industry standard, 3D Secure, but there is nothing for bank payments and for authentication there. So we would look for clarity. And then finally, around the mobile standards, which the banking community is expected to provide its input over the next couple of weeks, we would look for clarity around the definition of internet versus mobile payments. Right now, it's not clear what is an internet payment. Is it when you're on your browser through your smartphone? What is a mobile payment? Is it is it an SMS? Is it a token? That type of thing. That's not all that clear either. So just to wrap up, I think the future, as we debate financial models, we debate security standards, the reality is that online and offline payments are beginning to merge. There is a blurring of the lines. Mobile is clearly doing that, smartphone. Question that, having been in the European payments industry for 15 years, when will mobile happen? That's done. It is happening. And I think the reality is that setting standards or setting business models is going to have to take into account this new model as well. And so we're almost responding to something that was a situation 5 years ago, and a little bit too late. And it really is about not talking about fallback fees like interchange. It is about finding value add that retailers and consumers are willing to pay. So in the case of PayPal, for example, we've introduced a company called eBay Enterprises, which will offer web e-commerce shopping from start to finish. We take care of the payments, we take care of the website, we then pick the goods from the shop that same day and deliver them to your home. In addition, a company we've just acquired called Braintree, we will be bringing that to the European Union as well over this next year, which actually allows for small and mid-sized merchants to be up and running, accepting card or bank payments within days as well. And again, offering a full web capability. And then the mobile phone, our PayPal app allows you to check in and hands-free shopping. And then we've developed something which we'll be launching here in Europe as well called Beacon, which plugs into a wall and actually identifies you, offers you relevant discounts, allows you to walk out of the shop by once you've already checked in on your mobile. So again, it is about an end-to-end set of retail standards and capabilities rather than the payment. And I think these are really quite exciting opportunities for the industry. So I think that pretty well does it. Thank you.